So Arun, Microsoftல full-time job and LinkedInல post பார்த்தேன் that you are now a full-time independent software developer leaving your job in Microsoft. So ஒரு Indian parent மாதிரி கேக்குறேன் ஏன்?
This is something that I want in my life. I want to be able to own something of my own.
Even today நமக்கு வந்து okay startup பண்ணணும். But traditionally நம்ம பார்த்த வேர்ல்ட்ல startup அப்படினா you will go find a co-founder, you will raise funding, you will find an office space, you will have a team, you will do research for 2 months. பட் இது எதுவுமே இல்லாம இண்டிபெண்டன்ட் சாஃப்ட்வேர் டெவலப்பர் அதுவும் ஒரு ஃபுல் டைம் ஜாப் குவிட் பண்ணிட்டு ஸோ ஜஸ்ட் லைக் வாக் மீ த்ரூ தட் டிசிஷன்.
I am a married man. I have 2 kids. I have certain responsibilities and there's nothing to lose.
According to you, who's an independent software developer?
You are responsible for every aspect of building the product, finding the market fit and selling the product.
In the channel, I want to enable people to go build software and make a lifestyle out of that. Hi, hello, welcome, vanakkam to one more episode of my podcast. So, nama podcast la we've been having people doing things around MicroSaaS. So, we had a solo builder who made over $80,000. We had someone teach us marketing. We had someone teach us community-led growth. So, இன்னைக்கு வந்து I have Arun. Actually, Arun கிட்ட வந்து எனக்கு இன்ட்ரோலாம் போறதுக்கு முன்னாடி ஒரு ரொம்ப ஸ்ட்ரெயிட் ஃபார்வர்டான क्वेश्चन இருக்கு. So Arun, Microsoftல full-time job and LinkedInல post பார்த்தேன் that you are now a full-time independent software developer leaving your job in Microsoft. So ஒரு இந்தியன் parent மாதிரி கேக்குறேன் ஏன்?
Because this has been my dream. This is what I wanted to do for the last from 10 years back onwards.
Okay.
So I joined Freshworks in 2015.
Okay.
And I remember a conversation I had with one of my colleagues at that time. And he asked me, hey, what is it that you want to do like in the next 5 years, 10 years? You know, at that moment, I answered saying, hey, I want to have a startup of my own.
Okay.
But I had absolutely no idea how that was going to happen, whether I have the skills for that or not.
Okay.
But I just knew that this is something that I want in my life. I want to be able to own something of my own.
Okay.
And you know.
Okay, so இப்போ எல்லாருமே வந்து கண்டிப்பா நிறைய பேருக்கு அந்த ட்ரீம் இருக்கும் and even today நமக்கு வந்து okay startup பண்ணணும். But traditionally நம்ம பார்த்த வேர்ல்ட்ல startup அப்படினா you will go find a co-founder, you will raise funding, you will find an office space, you will have a team, you will do research for 2 months. பட் இது எதுவுமே இல்லாம இண்டிபெண்டன்ட் சாஃப்ட்வேர் டெவலப்பர் அதுவும் ஒரு ஃபுல் டைம் ஜாப் குவிட் பண்ணிட்டு ஸோ ஜஸ்ட் லைக் வாக் மீ த்ரூ தட் டிசிஷன்.
Yeah, so see, I look at it as a 4 into 100 meters relay. Like,
okay.
Let's just take this example of what happens in it. Like, one runner runs and then hands over the baton to the second person and the second to the third and so on till the fourth, right? So, for me, it was something very similar. Imagine this to be a 2 into 100 meters relay.
Okay.
Where the first runner is the salaried employee.
Okay.
Right? And the second runner is the entrepreneur in you.
Okay.
So, it was a journey where the salaried employee in me hands over the baton to the entrepreneur in me.
Okay.
And now let's focus a little bit on the period of overlap of when the salaried employee hands over the baton. So there's a period where both are running at the same speed. And then it makes that switch very seamless.
Okay.
Right? But for that to happen, you need to have certain things set right, which is some amount of runway for which I had to create a corpus and have some buffer to sustain me for the next say 6 months or 1 year.
Okay.
So it's been that period of overlap for me has been over a period of 2 years.
Okay. So இது வந்து நம்ம like you I mean it's very clear that நீங்க சொல்றதுல இருந்து you've been planning this for a while and this is what you want to do.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's rewind a little bit, like let's start from college முடிச்சிட்டு what was your journey like and how did you kind of end up in the what are the different roles that you have done and like how did that lead here?
Sure. So I was a very reluctant office goer.
Okay.
So after college, I decided that I'm going to take a break for an indefinite amount of time.
Okay.
Just to, put a pause to giving exams and meeting other people's expectations.
Okay.
So I decided to take a break and it was by chance that I met someone who wanted me to join their company. And he had also very recently joined a startup. It was called K7 Antivirus.
Okay. So நீங்க படிச்சது what did you study?
I studied computer science
So
in SRM engineering
would you
college.
consider yourself like a proficient coder just by your college experience?
Just by college experience, no.
ஓகே
Yeah.
இல்ல நான் ஏன் கேக்குறேன் அப்படின்னா ஃபார் கான்டெக்ட் செட்டிங் ஆஃப் த ஃபர்ஸ்ட் ஜாப்ல இருந்து லைக் யூ ஜாயின்ட் அ கோடிங் ஜாப் பிகாஸ் நிறைய பேர் ஐ ஸ்டடி ஐடி பட் தென் ஐ ஜாயின் சம்திங் தட்ஸ் கம்ப்ளீட்லி நான் டெக் ரைட் ஸோ அந்த கான்டெக்ட்காக கேட்டேன் ஸோ இட்ஸ் நாட் லைக் யூ இன்டென்ஷனலி வாண்டட் டு ஜாயின் கோடிங் பட் தட்ஸ் கைண்ட் ஆஃப் that came to you or you enjoyed coding?
I love coding.
You love coding. College முடிச்சதுல இருந்தே. Okay, super. Okay.
So I'm a very hands-on person who loves to write every line of code myself so much so that I don't trust AI to write code on my behalf.
Okay.
I find it more bothersome to debug a code written by AI than if I had written it myself and made a mistake.
Okay.
I would be able to correct it more easily than if I had to correct someone else's code.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm like a control freak when it comes to writing code.
Super. What I'm trying to understand is upon the college mudichittu what is your first role in the K7?
I was a programmer. I wrote code in C++.
Super. So programmer. Yeah. So anga irundhu how was your like journey with let's say software and like what was your like first paatha odane very comfortable with code or you had to learn by yourself? How was that like?
I'm very comfortable with code. Yeah.
Okay, then you are a proficient programmer right out of college.
Yeah.
Okay.
You could say so.
Super. ஏன்னா இப்போ நிறைய பேர் அந்த பேக்ரவுண்டில் தான் இருக்காங்க இப்போ நம்ம சேனலில் பார்க்குறவங்களுமே they fall into one of two buckets. ஒன்று they are proficient in development but then the marketing side is what they need help with, or the other way where they're proficient in marketing but then they need help with technical development. I think with you இன்னைக்கு நான் ஸ்பெசிஃபிக்காக பேசணும்னு நினைக்கிறது obviously your journey and like you know what you're doing, but beyond that for someone who's technical like what are the things that you've done and also when someone who wants to get into the technology அவங்களுக்கு என்னலாம் பண்ணணும் அப்படின்றது. So that's why I asked that question. Super. We'll go back to your journey. So you started in K7 Antivirus.
Yeah. So I help build tools around the antivirus product, not the antivirus product itself.
Okay.
Things like virus scanning software that you know when you get a bunch of viruses you need to ensure that they are in fact viruses.
Okay.
And that you need to classify them.
Okay.
And
so on the overall database la irukum adula irundhu.
Correct.
Okay.
And you need to run these viruses against competing antivirus products and see what they are saying about this.
Okay.
Whether they classify it as a virus or not.
Okay.
So if we have a majority of other antivirus products classifying it as a virus, then we would classify it as a virus.
Okay.
And then take it to the next level of processing. That's just one level. Then of course there'll be a human who will actually go deep dive into it and see what it does and then give it the label. So I was building tools around the antivirus product.
Okay, super. And then from there how did and like just for context time frame end time frame la was this happening?
This was in 2007 to 2009.
So the peak and the recession time if you can call it that. But then were you impacted because you were early in your journey la?
I was very early in my journey. It was a startup.
Okay.
And it was doing pretty well at that time.
Okay, so on the impact barisal. Okay, from there, how did your journey evolve as a programmer?
So I met a bunch of friends while I was in that job.
Okay.
And we were super passionate about music.
Oh, super.
So the life took a very different turn from then onwards. We all three of us decided to quit our jobs and pursue music full time and gave ourselves 2 years.
Oh, super. So then this is not your first time quitting your job and trying something new. Okay. Super. Adu eppadi pochu?
But it's very different. The context then was that I was single.
Okay.
And I was 22, 23 and there's nothing to lose.
Okay.
Right? And I'd saved up enough for the foreseeable future.
Okay.
But this time when I did it, it's very different.
Okay.
I am a married man. I have 2 kids. I have certain responsibilities. I need to bring home some amount of money.
Yeah.
I need to pay for so many different expenses these days. So it's very different from what happened then and what it is like right now.
Okay. No, we'll definitely come to you. That's an important thing that I want to cover. So, when you, because I'm also observing the pattern where you're clear of, okay, it's not just that I want to do this, but I will also save up. I will also make sure I have the runway. அது வந்து அப்போத்துல இருந்தே உங்கள்ட்ட தெளிவா இருந்திருக்கு. So அந்த thought process வந்து how important is it for someone who's like you know who wants to quit and go full time? Because I have not done that. I have built a MicroSaaS product when I was in a full time job. So எனக்கு அந்த runway automatically sideல build ஆயிட்டு இருந்துச்சு. But going in full time, how important is it to build that runway?
I think it's very important to have that safety net. Like even
Okay.
if you go to a circus and you see people doing those amazing acrobatics, they do have that safety net at the bottom which will catch them no matter what happens. Right?
Okay.
So for me, it was very important to have that safety net before I took a plunge into doing something that's out of the box
Okay,
or
like
offbeat.
music.
Correct.
So how was the music journey?
It was amazing.
Okay.
It's something that I have had a lot of passion for, and it's again a childhood dream which never got fulfilled.
Okay.
Which I got a chance to lap it up.
Okay.
And yeah, I took it.
Super. And then I'm assuming at some point you got back into becoming a programmer. When did that happen?
That happened when I fell in love.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And I got married,
Okay.
and I decided, okay, now it's time to get a job.
Good job.
So I got my job after I got married.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So it was at that time my confidence in programming was really low. For some reason,
you wouldn't have practiced.
Yeah, I hadn't written a single line of code for those 3 years.
Okay.
And I thought maybe I'm not cut out for it now. So I decided to take up a job as an information security auditor
Okay. Okay.
in a security agency, in a
Okay.
company.
Okay.
So I worked as an auditor for a month, exactly a month. And I realized I had to run away from that.
Okay.
That was just not my cup of tea. I
Okay.
knew that I am a programmer at heart. And I quit my job again
Okay.
after a month and decided that I'm going to find a coding job.
Super.
So I spent the next 2 months, reading every programming book possible on how to crack interviews. There's a particular book called Cracking the Coding Interview,
Yeah.
which I found very, very helpful. I even met the author when she had come to IIT Madras.
Oh, nice. Okay.
During that time. I got my book signed by
Okay.
her, and I think her name was Lackman.
Okay.
Gail Lackman. I think,
Okay.
yeah. So yeah, it was a game-changing book for me because for someone who had not written a single line of code for 3 years to cracking coding interviews at top product companies in Chennai, that really helped me.
Okay. So again, the time frame, this is around.
This is around 2011.
Okay, super.
Yeah.
So, what was the programming job that you joined?
So I joined as a web developer,
Okay.
which had nothing to do with what I had prepared myself for
Okay.
until then. So I was a C++ programmer,
Okay.
and suddenly I was put into a pool where I had to write C# and JavaScript.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think it was Global Scholar.
Super.
I joined Global Scholar.
Okay.
It was a great experience to work at a very fast-paced product company
Okay.
with like hundreds of employees. My previous company had just like 5 developers.
Okay.
And now I was in a place where there are hundreds. There's a whole process of QA, there are product managers everywhere. And it's new technology that I had to learn. And it went well. I thought it went well.
Okay.
But the company shut down
Okay.
1.5 years
Okay.
from when I joined. So I had to again go back to, searching for another job. So I think at some point in life I decided that, hey, I'm tired of doing this. Like I don't want to keep switching jobs. I don't want the control of my life to be in someone else's hand.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So at some point, maybe all these experiences took me to the decision of starting up on my own, where I live my life on my terms. And here I am. I'm so grateful and so happy that it's brought me here.
No, I can sense it. இப்போ நீங்க சொல்லும் போதே வந்து அந்த ஒரு because this is something that I've also earned, right? And எனக்கு வந்து I've oscillated between a job and being independent because I feel like I still have something to get out of the job. Like you're obviously a few years ahead of me in the journey. So இப்போ எனக்கு வந்து the thing about again starting up is I see it's different because starting up la irukra and oru pressure is also not something that people want. For example, for me, I don't want to get caught in an environment where I am being pressurized to go make revenue. Super meme is working well for me because I know that நான் என்ன பண்ணாலும் யாரும் என்ன கேட்க மாட்டாங்க, அது பாட்டு வர ரெவன்யூ வந்துட்டு இருக்கும். ஸோ த ரீசன் ஐ எம் கோயிங் பேக் டு யூ இஸ் யூ செட் இண்டிபெண்டன்ட் சாஃப்ட்வேர் டெவலப்பர். ஸோ ஜஸ்ட் வாக் மீ த்ரூ தட். அக்கார்டிங் டு யூ, who is an independent software developer?
I'm an independent software developer.
What does it mean? Like,
Okay. See, I've lived life being an employee where
Okay.
I'm dependent on someone, an employer, to fund 100% of what I earn every month.
okay,
Right? So being an independent software developer to me is someone who doesn't depend on just one source of income, and you create your own business opportunities to make to bring in revenue.
okay. So here obviously the crux of your skill is software development, which you have built
Correct.
over the years, right? So assuming someone starts today in 2025, so like we have Mario here, who's like a CSC IT student, and let's assume that Mario wants to get into MicroSaaS. Purely from a technology wise, what would be your advice? Because that's your expertise, right? As a programmer, as a coder, like what would you tell them?
See, I can talk about my journey. I can say what worked for me.
Yeah.
But in general, there's no one rule that says you should be building this or you should be building
Okay.
that. For me, what worked is that I know what my strengths are,
Okay.
and I know what I'm not very good at as well.
Okay.
Right? So my strengths really lie in, of course, programming and writing code that actually works, which is of the highest order of like quality and security. These things are like non-compromisable, right? So apart from this, there's also the element of building something that the market really wants,
Okay.
right? So finding something that the market wants and building it is one part of the job, but selling it and making money out of it is another thing altogether, right? So what worked for me is to pick a marketplace where you can build apps and publish them, and you don't have to worry about the discoverability part of it.
Okay, actually that's something I want to dive deep into. So just tell us about what does this marketplace mean, and because நிறைய பேருக்கு இந்த ஒரு opportunity இருக்குன்றதே தெரியாது. So marketplace na enna, and how is it different from, let's say I am building a product on my own and selling it on my own?
See, building a product on your own is like it's very open-ended.
Okay.
And where you are responsible for every aspect of building the product, finding the market fit, and selling the product, and doing every aspect of it.
Okay.
But building it in a marketplace in a way restricts you to a certain audience, and also requires fewer skills
Okay.
on your side. So
On
you can
the
really
marketing side,
yes.
Okay.
So you can afford to play to your strengths, and
Okay.
leave the rest to the marketplace to provide you with the discoverability aspect, to get you the customers,
Okay.
and get you
Okay. So like again ஒரு example ஓட சொல்றேன், see if it makes sense. So assuming that like a parallel world, let's say I want to start a shop. So I have two options. I can either find an empty land, build a shop there, and bring people there.
The other way is to go to a mall.
Yeah, go to Phoenix Mall.
Yeah,
and then
exactly,
start a shop
exactly.
there.
That's
so
perfect. That's
Marketplace
perfect.
is like the
Yes.
Phoenix Mall.
You get the footfalls automatically.
Yeah.
And people just come into your
So
store.
அங்க போறப்போ பார்த்துட்டு ஓகே இது எனக்கு வேணும் அப்படின்னு உள்ள
I
வந்து
couldn't
வாங்கிட்டு
have put it in a better way. Yeah, thanks.
Super.
for it.
So give us an example of a marketplace and like an app that can go into a marketplace.
Yeah, there are so many marketplaces right now available in the market, where you take any big SaaS product, they will have a marketplace to simply to enhance the capabilities of their products.
Okay.
Because customers come with very unique requirements,
Okay.
where they need integrations with certain other tools that they use, or it could be their own CRM that they
Okay.
need to integrate with.
Okay.
So a marketplace helps bridge that gap between what the product offers and what the customers want. It's that
Okay.
last mile connectivity. It's like taking a metro train to go from one place to another, but then you need to take that auto to reach your
Okay.
house, right?
Okay.
A marketplace serves that purpose
Okay.
exactly for a large software company.
Okay. Can you walk us through a use case, like a very generic use case that maybe எல்லாருக்குமே புரியுற மாதிரி?
Sure. So I can talk to you about something that I've come across in the Freshworks Marketplace, where I build my apps primarily.
Okay.
So there is a requirement for customers to be able to create recurring tickets for a variety of reasons. Like it could be just to make sure that they do an audit on a periodic basis.
Okay, every 3 months or audit or a ticket varanum.
You need a ticket to be, and a customer is not going to create that ticket for you.
Okay.
You need to be able to create that ticket yourself.
Or a reminder mari.
Correct.
Okay.
So Freshworks is a great product, is a great company which has amazing products, and they have a ticketing system, but they did not have the ability to create a recurring ticket, right? So, and you can't expect them to have everything as well, right?
Absolutely.
So that's where I saw the opportunity to build something which could create recurring tickets on the Freshdesk product.
Okay.
And that's something that bridges the gap between what Freshworks offers and what the customers want.
Super. So the way that I understand marketplace and the apps in the marketplace is like an add-on. Like,
correct.
இப்போ வந்து ஒரு let's say நம்ம ஐஃபோன் வாங்குறோம், ஐஃபோனுக்குன்னு ப்ரீமியம் ஆக்சசரிஸ் இருக்கு. ஐஃபோனுக்கு அது ஐஃபோன் ஆப்பிள் சால்வ் பண்ண முடியாததை there are independent people who are solving.
சால்வ் பண்ண முடியாததுன்ட்டு இல்ல, அவங்க வேணும்னா பண்ணலாம்.
Okay.
I mean, anything that you see on a marketplace can be built by the parent product themselves.
Like sidebar, why do you think they're not doing? Like recurring ticket seems like a useful thing, right?
That's not for me to answer.
Okay.
You should be asking the folks at Freshworks.
Okay, so typically maybe out of the 100 things they can build, this is probably not
probably, yeah.
Okay.
Maybe they're looking at building what
Fair enough.
their next enterprise customer wants.
Okay.
And this is something that they don't see enough value or enough
makes sense.
For
maybe
the effort
right,
that they put.
Correct. So that is not for, but the interesting thing is நமக்கு அங்க ஒரு opportunity இருக்கு. இப்போ ரீசெண்டா வந்து இந்த ஆப்பிளோட ஒரு எக்ஸ்டென்ஷன் ட்ரெண்ட் ஆச்சு, where you can plug it in, there is like a full keyboard, like a proper QWERTY keyboard, and people like were just using that. Obviously Apple's not going to build that, but there are people out there who want to use an iPhone with that QWERTY keyboard and then can go buy their extension and plug it in.
Correct.
So is that like a equivalent example of a marketplace as well?
Very true.
Super.
And also I would say that Freshworks doesn't really need to build everything themselves.
Correct.
Because they do have that marketplace, and that's an opportunity for them to scale their product in many times over, because
Correct.
how many engineers can they actually hire to build everything that their customers want? So this is an avenue for them to open it up to every software engineer in a tier 1, 2, 3 city, working from anywhere they want in the world, and be able to enhance Freshworks.
And obviously make a business out of it as
Correct.
well. So what are some of the other companies which do this? Because I again want to establish that Freshworks is an example that we're using, but this opportunity is just like
Yes.
few other companies that let
So
you
a few
do
other
this.
companies that I have considered building for are Zendesk,
Okay.
Monday.com,
Okay.
Shopify,
Okay.
Google Workspace,
Okay.
and Zoho.
சூப்பர். ஓகே. அண்ட் இப்போ வந்து ஒரு லெவல் செட்டிங்காக சொல்கிறேன். நான் ஃப்ரெஷ்வொர்க்ஸில் இருக்கும் போதுமே ஐ வாஸ் இந்த ப்ரீ சேல்ஸ் ரோல். ஸோ மை ஜாப் வாஸ் கன்சல்டிங் ஃபார் ஸ்பெசிஃபிக் கஸ்டமர்ஸ். அவங்க ஒரு யூஸ் கேஸ் கேட்குறப்போ we were not able to solve it through the product, so I used to write custom code appo just for them, and eventually that actually became the marketplace. ஸோ அப்போ நான் என்ன கண்டுபிடிச்சேன் அப்படின்னா, ஒரு கஸ்டமருக்கு இருக்கிற ஸ்பெசிஃபிக் நீட் வந்து அவங்களுக்கு மட்டும்தான் இருக்கு. அதை எல்லாரும் மேபி அவங்களுக்கு இருக்கு, ஒரு மேபி ஒரு 10 பேர் ஒரு ஸ்பெசிஃபிக் இண்டஸ்ட்ரியில் இருக்கவங்களுக்கு இருக்கு. ஸோ மார்க்கெட் பிளேஸ் இஸ் ஆக்சுவலி அ குட் opportunity to solve for that.
Correct.
Assuming that let's say you are an expert in healthcare domain or insurance domain, and you can go and solve like specific problems for that domain. So இப்போ இந்த மார்க்கெட் பிளேஸ்ல நான் ஒரு டெவலப்பரா ஆகணும், or I have to publish an app in the marketplace, now what should I do?
The threshold is actually very, very low.
Okay.
To be able to do that.
Okay.
And it's surprising how not many people know about it.
Actually, correct. I've never considered that as a route, but now I think I'll go experiment on some marketplace apps. Okay.
So one is your technical ability to be able to write code in a language that the marketplace expects you to.
Okay. And is there like a pattern with the language, or is it based on the app itself?
So if you're building a web application and if it requires a front end, there's really no choice. You need to know JavaScript. Okay. HTML and CSS. That's non-negotiable. Okay. But if you're building the backend, you have a variety of options that you can pick from. My preferred choice is JavaScript again on the backend. I use Node.js.
Okay.
And so I use the same programming language all the way from the front end to the back end.
Okay.
And I'm not complaining.
Okay. So bro, tell me this. If nammala independent build பண்றப்போ we'll have full control over what we want to build.
Yes.
But when you're building for an ecosystem, ஒரு app ஓட marketplace நம்ம build பண்ணனும்ன்றப்போ you have to navigate through their constraints.
Correct.
Right? Like how does, like as a programmer, how do you feel about
It's
that?
very important to know what the constraints are, what the limits are. So very early on, when I started building on the Freshworks Marketplace, I was actually an employee of Freshworks. And it was a hackathon conducted by the Marketplace team to help increase the number of apps on the Marketplace. It was very early stages. So that's what really got me started, and I actually learned about the Marketplace. I learned the rules. The rules, you have to play by the rules of the game when you're building inside a marketplace. There are certain limits, like the number of API calls that you can make from the front end, and the amount of storage that you can make use of. You can make use of a scheduler service. So there are a lot of things. So just assume that there are a bunch of rules.
Okay.
You need to be very aware of these rules.
Okay.
Because you also need to be aware that you're building for their customers.
Okay.
And that it needs to maintain a certain standard of quality, right? Because otherwise, people will check out your app and they'll move on.
Okay. What is the revenue making potential of, let's say, building for a marketplace versus building something on your own?
See, I have been inspired by a lot of independent software developers in the world who have built multi-million-dollar companies as a single one-person company, right? So I've always fancied myself being one such person.
Okay.
Right? At some point in the future. So I believe that there is a huge opportunity to at least take you to $1 million in revenue, if not more. And I'm on that journey right now.
Marketplace சொல்றீங்க.
Just in the marketplace.
Okay, okay. So again, I'm trying to justify that just for myself, right? Because an average customer pays, let's say, Salesforce, now Freshworks, Zoho, around, let's say, $500,000, or I'm just like making up a number. So adula, how do you charge the apps? Like, I'm assuming it's paid. That's how you make
Correct.
revenue.
They're all of them are paid apps.
Okay.
And there are a few pricing models that Freshworks allows.
Okay.
Like similar to Freshworks, like every SaaS marketplace has their own pricing model. Like if you look at Zendesk, they have way more models. If you look at Atlassian, they have many more pricing models available.
Okay.
So you could price it on a recurring basis of say per account per month, or it could be on a per agent basis.
Okay. ஒரு இவ்வளோ யூசருக்கு இவ்வளோ.
Correct. இவ்வளோ யூசருக்கு இவ்வளோ. So I charge anywhere between $1 to $3 per user.
Okay.
If it is on a per user basis, and if it's on a per account basis, it depends on the marketplace. If you look at the marketplace, if you study it well, you will see that you will know what the lower bound is and what the higher bound is.
Okay.
Right? And you'll want to play within that range.
Okay. So இப்போ வந்து நமக்கு marketplace build பண்றது is again I'm almost seeing this as a new opportunity unlocked for MicroSaaS, because to me the way that I define MicroSaaS is like a mindset. You look at a problem, you don't have to go big, start a company, raise funding to solve that problem. You can do it by yourself, and you do it at a small scale. So, and you spoke about finding the right problem to solve in the right market. Within the constraint of a marketplace, how do you do that? Like, how do you scout for the problems?
Yeah, that's the hardest part.
Okay.
I wish I had the answer to this when I started.
Okay.
But I'm very, very happy to share what I've learned over the years. So one thing that you can do is ask them.
Okay.
Ask the marketplace, the people who run the marketplace, what should I build?
Okay. ஏன்னா அவங்களுக்கு வந்து நிறைய build பண்ணனும்னு இருக்கும், பண்ண முடியாது அவங்களால.
Exactly.
Okay. So it's a very easy. How, because I'm assuming Freshworks, because you were there, you knew it. But let's assume that I had no connections. How would I even reach out to these people?
There's always a community that is associated with any marketplace.
Okay.
Like whether it's a Freshworks Marketplace or the Zendesk or Zoho, there's a community. And most of these communities are very thriving communities.
Okay, they're active.
Because, Because where do you go for support when you're building for a very niche marketplace? You can't go and search on Stack Overflow for a problem that is happening inside one of the marketplaces, right? It's not a very so popular a problem that everyone in the world will be interested in solving.
Okay.
So these answers are available in the communities.
Okay.
So being active on the community, listening to what's happening on the community, listening to other people's problems helps a lot in getting help.
Okay, so let's assume that you found a problem. So you talk to them, you ask them, you found a problem. And what does the process look like of
talking to them and getting the problem statement is just one way.
Correct. Okay.
There are a few other techniques as well.
What are the other ways?
I just want to touch upon that. The other one is looking at the existing apps on the marketplace and looking for an opportunity to do better than any of the existing apps. So one of the methods that I've used is to go over the comment section and to see of other apps and to see if customers are complaining about certain things or not. Looking at the ratings.
Okay.
So if you see there's an app that has enough installs but has a low rating, something like a 3 or a 2,
that's a opportunity.
Correct. There's an opportunity. It's already proven that this kind of an app is needed.
Okay.
But there's an opportunity to make it better.
Okay.
Right? That's another one.
Super. Anything else that comes to mind?
Anything else is that looking at similar marketplaces.
Okay.
And see, so far we've looked at what is, how do you make the same app better? But then how do you find a completely new app to build, which is not vetted at all? The idea has not been vetted. How do you find such an idea? Right? So one way is to look at similar marketplaces and see what apps are there on other such marketplaces and try and build those in your target marketplace.
Okay, so let's assume that if I'm building for the Asana marketplace and I see that there is a recurring project app in that.
Yeah.
So I come to Monday.com, I find that that's not there, so I can just build the same thing for Monday.com.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So இப்போ நம்ம ஒரு தனியா app build பண்றப்போ we hold the end-to-end control, right? நம்ம இன்னைக்கு நினைச்சா இன்னைக்கு build பண்ணி நாளைக்கு live எடுத்துட்டு போயிடலாம். But I'm sure it's not the same case with the app marketplace. So what's the process like?
It's exactly that way.
அப்படியா?
Yes.
Okay.
But it takes நாளைக்கு ரிலீஸ் பண்ண முடியாது.
Okay, நாளைக்கு பண்ணலாம்.
It depends on your familiarity with the marketplace. If you're someone who's already built 1 or 2 apps, building a third app becomes exponentially easier.
Okay.
Right? So for me to build another app on the marketplace would probably take a weekend.
Okay. But let's say once you build and publish, isn't it required for them to approve it or direct
it needs an approval. I'm only talking about the time it takes for you to build.
Okay, நான் அதுதான் கேக்குறேன்.
The approval process takes about a week, maybe 10 days.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to know.
And when you're building your first app, you will get rejected. You will need to learn how you need to build for that marketplace. They will have certain UI standards, certain QA standards, certain content standards, which you'll need to meet. And that's something that you will, that's the least of the problems to actually worry about.
Okay, நாம நல்லா பண்ணிட்டோம் அப்படினா அது ஆட்டோமேட்டிக்கா நடந்துரும்.
Correct.
Okay.
So it's something like you'll be told what's the right way to write your content and you just have to modify it. That's it.
Okay, makes sense. So this path, right? This niche path as an independent software developer for B2B marketplace. That's where you are at.
Correct.
So would you recommend it for someone starting out right now, or do you think that it needs some experience?
I would say it depends.
Okay.
For someone like Mario, I think he can get started from day one. But having some experience building software and knowing when you build for B2B, security is something that's very, very important. It's non-negotiable, like I said earlier, right? And that comes with a little bit of experience, knowing what security means.
Okay.
And quality control. One thing is building something that actually works. The other one is building something that works and that doesn't fail.
Okay.
So you need to have systems in place to make sure that your code maintains a certain quality standard. It could be unit testing. It could be end-to-end testing. It could be a layer of manual testing at the end of it. So build as many layers of quality control as possible before you actually ship your. I'm a freak when it comes to ensuring that quality is maintained.
Okay. No, this
and
is,
that really that's very well appreciated by B2B customers.
So because of the audience, like for example, to give you a contrasting example, Super Meme because it's built primarily for consumers, this is not the primary thing that we focus on. Like, we've obviously had people send us emails about security breaches. Our UI isn't the greatest, but the core functionality works. So ஒரு இடத்துக்கும் அது மாறும். நம்ம வந்து இப்படி தான் எல்லா ஆப்பும் பில்ட் பண்ணோம் அப்படின்றத சொல்ல முடியாது. Super, this like the process and the technology, the ellame vandu, I think we spoke about it, but I want to get a little bit more generic. When did you realize that being an independent software developer in the marketplace can be a lifestyle? Like, when did you come to that decision?
See, all boils down to money, right?
Okay.
So as a salaried employee, you get X amount of money, and if you are able to make the same X amount of money while being an independent software developer, it's a no-brainer. You have the best of both worlds.
Correct, but again, it's also like a fantasy land, because on the opportunity irukku, but அது எல்லாராலையும் அது வந்து like you can't, it's not attainable easily by everyone. And some people have the fear. இப்போ வந்து நான் பண்ணலாம்னு வச்சிட்டு கடைசில நான் பண்ணவே மாட்டேன். உங்களுக்கு எந்த பாயிண்ட்ல you felt like what, I'm taking the leap?
See, it started 2 years back when Microsoft had announced their mass layoff.
Okay.
Right? They had laid off 11,000 employees in one shot.
Okay.
And that's when it struck me that, I could have been one of the 11,000.
Yeah.
Very easily. And I realized that I need to have my own stream of income. So the effort to be an independent software developer started 2 years back when I decided to take the first decisive action towards it.
Okay.
And I started building apps for the marketplace. And what started as a trickle, the first app that I built brought in $200 in a monthly recurring revenue.
Okay.
Which was great for me. I mean, to see your first dollar is just...
and that was your first experience building something solo and bringing revenue.
Correct.
Okay, super. Okay, so that kind of gave you the confidence that said, okay, idhiliyum or life.
I was lucky actually. It was the first ever app that I built.
Okay.
And in the very first month,
okay,
I had a $200 recurring revenue.
What was the app, if you don't mind sharing?
It was an app called Automated SMS Alerts.
Okay,
for the Freshworks Marketplace.
Okay, enna பண்ணும் அந்த app?
So when a ticket is created or when a ticket is resolved, you can configure that in the app.
Okay.
And you can say
email வரும், அதுக்கு பதிலா SMS வரும்.
Correct.
Okay.
So the agent will get an SMS, or you could even send an SMS to the customer.
Okay.
When a ticket is resolved or when it's reopened, for example.
Okay. So, I mean, just for context, so Freshworks we use it for customer support.
Correct.
So, like a user will raise a ticket. So, நம்ம அதான் வந்து ticket சொல்றோம். So, என்ன ஆகும்னா அது notification வந்து அது ticket நான் solve பண்ணிட்டேன் அப்படினா நமக்குலாம் email notification வர மாதிரி email வரும். But what Arun built actually sent that as an SMS. That's a
Correct.
And what was the problem behind that? Why is email not enough?
I don't know.
Okay. And it's okay, like it made $200.
I just saw that, Zendesk had a similar app.
Okay.
And Freshworks didn't.
Okay, you just went.
So I decided to build it. I was very naive at that time.
Yeah, இதுல ஏன் கேட்டேன் அப்படினா
And also I built it for fun.
Okay.
Right? I had nothing to lose. I had a full-time job that was, no matter what I did in my moonlighting business, did not affect my daylight.
Correct.
So
no, the reason I asked is sometimes people overthink this. Like வந்து நான் அந்த மாதிரி ஒரு ஆப் பண்ணனும் இல்லனா வந்து ஒரு MicroSaaS பண்ணனும்னா they will go, okay, நான் full research பண்ணிட்டு அந்த ஒரு proper conviction இருந்தா தான் நான் பண்ணுவேன் அப்படினு நிறைய பேர் இருப்பாங்க. But again, yours and even Super Meme for that matter, right? We no one wanted an AI meme generator. We built it made money. So same thing here, where you saw something, you had a hunch, you went for it.
Yeah.
Nice.
Also, what helped was while I was at Freshworks, I'd built 12 or 15 apps.
Okay, so the learning curve was
konjam
easy.
I was a pro at building apps, but I was just not good at monetizing it until then.
Okay. Yeah. And I also want to talk about what you said, right? Where bringing in the audience, the marketplace does it for you.
Correct.
But I'm assuming it's not that easy. Like, you obviously have to do some things. Like, how do you deal with, let's say, you have to take something like product demos, you have to take screenshots, something so that people can discover you. What are all the things?
All of those.
Avladhaan, idu podum, idu panna podum.
Correct.
Okay.
Writing the right content, making it SEO optimized for the marketplace.
Okay.
Looking at your competitors, what are they saying about their apps, and making sure that you're saying at least that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So bare minimum panna, like, actually this is a great path for technical people who can code, but they say எனக்கு marketing வராது, நான் marketing பண்ணதில்லை அப்படின்ட்டு. For you, is that like a conscious choice, or you feel like illa எனக்கு வந்து I also want to crack overall SaaS marketing? Is that what you think?
Yeah. Actually, I have something to tell you.
Okay.
Before I started building for a marketplace, I reached out to you on Twitter.
Okay.
And I'd asked you a question.
Okay.
Is it better to build for a marketplace or to build for the open web?
Yeah.
And at that time, you had told me to go ahead and build for the open web. It's going to be great in the long run. I completely ignored that.
Marketplace. இல்ல, எனக்கு வந்து actually நீங்க கேட்டது எனக்கு புரியல. See, I think இப்போவுமே I will still stand by that, because like building for the open web is எனக்கு obviously biased because I've experienced that. Yeah. But this seems to be like almost like ஒரு hack மாதிரி இருக்கு. ஏன்னா அங்கே டிஸ்கவரபிலிட்டி இருக்கு, பீப்புள் வித் ப்ராப்ளம் ஆர் தேர், தே கேன் கம் தேர், தே கேன் டிஸ்கவர் யர் ஆப். அண்ட் அகேன் சி வாட், லைக் இந்த சேனலில் என்ன ட்ரை பண்ணுறோம், ஒரு இண்டிபெண்டன்ட் சாஃப்ட்வேர் டெவலப்பர் கேன் கோ அண்ட் பில்ட் அ லைஃப் ஸ்டைல் ஃப்ரம் திஸ். என்னோட ஃபோக்கஸ் அதுதான். ஐ வாண்ட் டு எனேபிள் ஆஸ் மெனி பீப்புள் அஸ் பாசிபிள் டு மேக் அ லைஃப் ஸ்டைல் அவுட் ஆஃப் MicroSaaS, so that they get the freedom to go do whatever they want. Like, imagine a community like that. Like you are an example. Like, before you are talking about you being a teacher. So அது எல்லாமே வந்து this freedom can give you the opportunity to go explore anything that you want, and you're making an impact with that.
Absolutely.
ஸோ இது வந்து எனக்கு அண்ட் நிறைய பேர் இப்போ வந்து இதை நான் சேனல் ஆரம்பிச்சதுக்கு அப்புறமா என்ன சொல்கிறது வந்து, நான் டெவலப்பர், எனக்கு வந்து டெக்னாலஜி நல்லா தெரியும், ஐ கேன் பில்ட் ஆப்ஸ், பட் எனக்கு மார்க்கெட்டிங் சுத்தமாக தெரியல, எனக்கு எப்படி யூசர்ஸ் எடுத்துகிட்டு வருதுன்னு தெரியல, ஆர் எனக்கு என்ன பில்ட் பண்ணுறதுனே தெரியல அப்படின்ற அந்த ஆங்கிள் தான் இருக்காங்க. திஸ் மார்க்கெட் பிளேஸ் கன்ஸ்ட்ரெயின்ட் இஸ் அன் ஆப்பர்ச்சுனிட்டி வேர் அந்த ஆடியன்ஸ் சால்வ் பண்ண இட் ஆல்மோஸ்ட் ஷ்ரிங்க்ஸ் எவ்ரிதிங். ஜெனரல் ஸ்டார்ட் அப்ல என்ன சொல்லுவோம் அப்படின்னா, பில்ட் ஃபார் அ நீஷ். மார்க்கெட் பிளேஸ் இஸ் த நீஷ். மார்க்கெட் பிளேஸ் ஃபார் ஒன் ஆப் இஸ் த ஸ்பெசிபிக் நீஷ். ஸோ ஐ திங்க் கோயிங் பேக் டு அவர் கான்வர்சேஷன், எனக்கு அப்போ புரியல. எனக்கு வந்து ஒரு இன்ஃபேக்ட் நான் ஃப்ரெஷ்வர்க்ஸில் இருக்கும்போது ஐ யூஸ் டு டூ திஸ், பட் ஐ நெவர் லிங்க்ட் இட் டு MicroSaaS. ஐ யூஸ் டு பில்ட் ஆப்ஸ். இல்லை அப்போ கஸ்டம் கோட் ஸ்னிப்பெட், அதாவது ஒரு கஸ்டமருக்கு அவங்க அக்கௌண்ட்டில் மட்டும் ஒர்க் ஆகிற மாதிரி ஒரு கோட் ஸ்னிப்பெட் இருக்கும். ஸோ நான் வந்து ப்ரீசேல்ஸ் இருந்ததுனால யூஸ் டு ரைட் கோட் ஃபார் தெம். பட் திஸ் ஆஸ் அ ரெவன்யூ மேக்கிங் ஸ்ட்ரீம் இஸ் திஸ் லைக் அ ரீசன்ட் ஆப்பர்ச்சுனிட்டி? ரொம்ப நாளாகவே இருக்காது.
This has been there for a long time. If you look at the Play Store or the App Store, it's been there for decades now.
Okay, so the Apple ecosystem, but that's still broad. இது வந்து அதோட ஒரு லெவல் கீழ.
The pioneer in this was probably Salesforce. When they had a marketplace where independent developers or other companies could actually build apps on their ecosystem.
Okay.
It's been there for quite a while.
Okay.
And I see that a lot of new SaaS companies that are coming up are also building a marketplace in their product.
Okay.
And to expand the capabilities of their product without having to burden their engineers.
Okay, so you're saying it's a win-win for the SaaS companies also, where they can expand the functionality and they can focus on the core functionality.
Correct. So they move from being a software to a platform. And that's the logical progression that any SaaS company wants to have, right? Move from a software to a platform, and then allow a whole ecosystem of developers to build and enhance their products.
Okay. So in this journey, have you come across people who are on similar journeys? Like, I just want to understand, okay, what does that world look like? And idhu enakku romba pudus in the world.
That world as in?
Like the indie software developer for marketplaces.
I haven't had much opportunity to. But it's very recently that I've come out of a full-time employment, and I hope to actually meet a lot more people like that.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be like so many people who. I know that there are companies who run businesses on this, so this is like a next level opportunity. Super. So ipo vandu again I want to take the conversation back to the marketing angle. So I know that you've been observing the MicroSaaS world, like, you've been part of the community. So what is as an observer, what is your observation on MicroSaaS, and as a developer, like, kind of, what do you feel about just like your raw thoughts?
I think MicroSaaS lowers the threshold for entry for any developer.
Okay.
Right? It's not as hard as you think it is. If you think about building something for the open web, you need to be playing all the roles, and it's hard for one person to have all those abilities or even have the time to do all of that. But of course, when you have a team of people, co-founders, and you have funding and you have the ability to go the entire breadth, right? But if you are constrained by all that, and if you want to play by your timeline, then I think MicroSaaS for a specific marketplace is a great option.
Okay. And இப்போ வந்து இந்த MicroSaaSல வந்து நிறைய பேர், like I said, two buckets. You have a technical set of people who can build code, who are trying to cross the marketing bridge, and marketing people trying to cross the technology bridge.
Right.
As someone who doesn't know how to code, would you recommend them learning how to code or finding a technical co-founder?
I think it's a personal choice.
Okay.
But finding someone else who shares the same passion as you is very important.
Okay.
If you're looking for a co-founder, but if you want to do it yourself, then of course learning code is non-negotiable there.
Okay. So because you started learning learning to code in a very different era, and I started 5 years ago, and I've been I failed at it. How is it right now? Like, I'm sure that you talk to some juniors who are learning how to code. Like, AI coding vandiruchu, and there is a lot of people are building vibe coding apps. So how is the ecosystem like ipo neenga padichappo irundha depth vandu ipo ponama illa you still feel like AI coding la irundhalum if you want to write quality code you still have to go deep?
See, I think AI coding takes you to 90% of the finished product.
Okay.
But then the 10% is something that needs a lot of attention.
Okay.
And experience really helps, and depth of knowledge of that subject really helps.
Okay.
Knowing algorithms and data structures helps you to refine your product, make sure that your product is not just functional but also meets the performance criteria, meets the security criteria, and AI can't really take you all the way to 100%.
Do you think it will in a few months or years? What is your bet?
I am in no position to bet on what AI can do. It's already surpassed all expectations so far.
Okay.
I don't want to make any predictions.
ஓகே, ரொம்ப தெளிவாக இருக்கீங்க. பட் ஐ see where you're coming from. ஏன்னா நான் டெக்னால எனக்கு வந்து இது நான் பார்க்குற ஆங்கிளே வேறு. எனக்கு இது ஒரு எனேபிளராக தான் பார்க்குறேன். ஆப்வியஸ்லி செக்யூரிட்டி அண்ட் பர்ஃபார்மன்ஸ் இஸ் லைக் த லீஸ்ட் ஆஃப் மை ப்ராப்ளம்ஸ் பிகாஸ் ஐ எம் ஆல்சோ நாட் பில்டிங் இன் த சேம் கான்டெக்ஸ்டில். You keep emphasizing on security, you keep emphasizing on quality, but it's not something you can learn overnight.
Yes.
So for me, it keeps going back to as a new developer, the only way for me to learn all this is by actually building apps for either I have to work for a company or I have to build app for a customer and then they tell me. அதுதான் ஒரே வழியா? இல்லைனா are there resources that you can use to learn security or quality?
There are books, of course, that you can read.
Okay. Would you recommend a few?
There's a book called Building Scalable Applications.
Okay.
By Robert Theo Schlossnagel.
Okay. Wow, you remembered. Okay.
Yeah. There's a book which was recommended to me very early in my career.
Okay.
And I got that book and I read it end to end. First time I read it, almost nothing went inside my head. It was all bouncers.
Okay.
But then when you spend enough time in the industry, you start to experience what they are talking about in the book. Otherwise, it becomes like a theory paper that you write in your engineering or your exam, where you have no practical knowledge of having faced that problem.
Okay.
Right? So I think having relevant industry experience helps in before you become an independent software developer.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
And generally, in terms of learning how to code, what are some resources that helped you, as you were learning how to code? You don't remember? Or you're trying to remember?
I'm trying to remember. See, I've always liked to learn coding by building something.
Okay.
Because having a goal in sight and then writing code towards that makes your coding also enjoyable.
Okay.
And it also takes you towards a destination. Like for
Okay.
example, if you want to learn for loop, right? You know the syntax, there's a for I equal to 0, I less than, you want to print your name 10 times, I less. What purpose does that solve?
Okay.
Why would you want to print your name 10 times and say hello world 10 times?
அதுலயும் வந்து SA அந்த மாதிரிலாம் வரும் பிரமிட் மாதிரிலாம் வரும்.
Correct. So it's very meaningless when you learn programming that way.
Okay.
But if you say that, hey, I want to build a to-do list app.
Just for myself.
Yeah, I want to build a to-do list app, and then you learn coding for that purpose. Then your for loop makes so much sense.
Okay.
You're actually iterating through the list of to-do items. Correct. And why are you doing that? Because you want to print it on the screen. And it just makes learning so much more wholesome. I always learn with a product or a goal in my mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's and again, that's very common advice, but அது வந்து it coming from someone who's actually done that, who's learned how to code, is obviously more validating.
Correct.
ஏன்னா இப்போ எல்லாருமே சொல்றது என்னன்னா லேர்ன் பை டூயிங் வாங்க. பட் யூஆர் சேயிங் தட் நான் அப்படி தான் கற்றுக்கிட்டேன். ஏன்னா இப்போ ஐ வாண்ட் லேர்ன் ஹவு டு கோட்னா ஐ கோ ஆன் தி இன்டர்நெட், like I have so many options, and if I actually search something on Google, if I come to Instagram, I'll get ads because that's how the algorithm works. So I am constantly being inundated with so many resources that I feel okay, எனக்கு வந்து இந்த மாதிரி கோர்ஸ்லாம் எடுத்தா தான் என்னால கத்துக்க முடியும் அப்படின்ட்டு.
But also let me clarify one thing here. See, when I'm learning a new programming language, it means that I already know one programming language. I know that fairly well.
Okay.
Right? So learning another language is basically learning the syntax and then just going ahead and writing your logic and solving a business problem, right? But for someone who's never learned coding, I would definitely recommend going through that step by step. What is it? What are control statements? What's a for loop? What's a while loop? And knowing all these things, these are the building blocks that you learn before you can actually write a sentence.
Okay. So you're saying that because you are a computer science major, so anga padichadanaala you are able to take that to the next level, and then because you knew one language, it's easier to switch.
Correct.
So complete எனக்கு அந்த பேக்ரவுண்டே இல்லை அப்படின்னா like the structured approach to learning is helpful.
Yes.
Okay, super. Makes sense. Actually, எனக்கு இந்த B2B marketplace, I think we've pretty much covered a lot, and overall MicroSaaS angle also. I know that you also want to chat about something, so we can chat about that.
So I actually reached out to you wanting to know what your approach is like how do you make use of AI in the entire process of deciding on what to build, to building it, to maintaining it, marketing it. How do you make use of AI in every layer of this process?
Actually,
or every step of this process?
Yeah, so recently I've been binge watching AI marketing systems, vibe marketing and all that, and all of that is ஒரு மாதிரி fantasy land மாதிரி if you can crack it, because this is perfect for MicroSaaS builders where you can almost have an always on marketing engine for you, like a system that automatically reaches out to people for you, personalizes the email, replies and books meetings for you, and always on. So அதெல்லாமே செமையாக இருக்குது, ரைட்? பட் அகைன் I've started to implement some of that, but let's say we go from I've not implemented, but I'll tell you what I want to do. So ஸ்டார்டிங்கில் எனக்கு தெரிஞ்சு finding the ideasக்கு Reddit mining is a great place to start. So what you can do is you can go to workflow builders like make.com, N8 and like Zapier. It lets you connect to Reddit. So pick a community that you want to solve a problem for, let's say social media managers or marketing. So you can extract all the posts that people have posted there and pass it through an LLM to say, idhula what are problems they're talking about, what are the rants that people have, and give me only the essence அப்படின்னா அந்த ரெடிட்ல இருக்கிற த்ரெட்ல இருந்து எல்லாத்தையும் எடுத்துட்டு உங்களுக்கு அந்த கோர் ப்ராப்ளம் ஸ்டேட்மெண்ட் வந்துடும். ஏன் ரெடிட் சொல்றேன்னா people are more honest there because it's anonymous. So that gives you a way to find problems. You take that problem, you go to ChatGPT, pick a model like O3 or O1, which is slightly more advanced reasoning.
Yeah, that's also the next thing I wanted to ask you. How do you decide what model to choose for what purpose?
அது வந்து ட்ரையல் அண்ட் எரர் தான். இப்போ எனக்கு வந்து O3 and O1 I will pick for more advanced things where it will take more time but it will go deep into that problem. So இந்த ப்ராப்ளம் ஒரு ப்ராடக்டாக மாற்றுறதுக்கு எனக்கு கண்டிப்பாக ஒரு அட்வான்ஸ் ரீசனிங் வேணும். பிகாஸ் இட்ஸ் நாட் ஜஸ்ட் சிம்பிள் ரைட்டிங்ல. ஸோ த வே தட் ஐ பிக் திஸ் இஸ் almost think of it like how long will I take to solve this? If I'm going to spend, let's say, a week on research, that's a task for O1 or O3. If it's a simple copywriting task, if it's a simple creative writing task, which I will not take that, I will obviously take time because I'm blocked creatively, but it's not an intensive task. 4O mini. And you can also use tools like OpenRouter போயிட்டு you can pick any model you want. For example, it makes it easy for you to switch between, let's say, ChatGPT to Gemini.
One quick question here. Like, if you say O3 is good for deep thinking tasks and 4O is for, just writing an article, can O3 not do that? Like, why would you?
Okay. So, one, if you think at scale, it's expensive.
Okay.
Second, some models are better at just the creative writing part. Like O3 will give you a lot of in-depth information which may not be easy for user to consume. So நான் usually என்ன பண்ணா, I'll split it up. I'll say ரீசர்ச்சுக்கு O3, அந்த O3ல வர அவுட்புட்டை வந்து இன்புட்டா 4O கொடுத்துட்டு இதை வச்சு write something.
Okay.
So I try to split it up. And again, N8N is a great tool for all this. It's a workflow builder that you can self-host. So you can just self-host and you can use it unlimited times. So you just pay the model cost. So I will take the problem statement that I find from Reddit.
I'm sorry for being an agnostic. I don't know what an N8N is.
No, I'll tell you. I love this because this also gives me an opportunity to talk about it. N8N is like make.com or Zapier. Okay. Zapier is like a workflow. If this, then that. So N8N recently grew in popularity because one, it's self-hosted. It is more powerful than all of these tools. So இப்போ வந்து Zaplio இல்லனா make.comல பண்ணோம்னா every workflow execution you have to pay some cost for them. N8N, because you can self-host it, you can run it unlimited times.
So it runs on your device.
Or use something like Railway or like any of the hosting providers to host it. நான் Railwayல போட்டிருக்கேன். So அதனால என்னன்னா I can run any number of workflows. The advantage with N8N is that you can run complicated workflows without writing code. So what I can do is I can take
this. Is it something like a visual builder?
Visual builder that lets you pre-built integrations இருக்கு. இப்போ வந்து ரெடிட்க்கு ஆல்ரெடி இருக்கு. ரெடிட்ல போய் நீங்க API கீ கொடுத்துட்டா ரெடிட் போஸ்ட் எல்லாத்தையும் ஸ்க்ரேப் பண்ணி அது கொடுத்துரும். பட் ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் சம்திங் லைக் ஃபார் when the image generation வந்து இப்போ ChatGPT Ghibli imagesலாம் அது வந்தப்போ அந்த API endpoint இல்ல N8Nல. But it also lets you do custom API calls. Right. So you can just run an HTTP node, custom API calls பண்ணிடலாம். The workflows, again like I said, the personalization. Imagine a workflow like this where you have website visitor. There are tools that track website visitors. And அவங்க வந்து வெப்புக்கு அனுப்புவாங்க. N8N can catch that website visitor, அவங்களோட இமெயில் ஐடி எடுத்துட்டு go to Apollo, research that, find all the professional information of that visitor, write a customized outbound email for them that pitches your product. It is not a mass email, but அந்த ஒரு பர்சனுக்கு ஒரு email. ஒரு யூசருக்கு ஒரு email, send it to them along with the calendar link. If they reply, send you a notification on Slack so that you can get in. And then book meetings. And this can just keep happening. Every time a user visits your website, in 5 minutes they'll get an email. Like the manual பண்ணவே முடியாது. So this is possible with the combination of LLMs and workflow tools. Wow. So I would do that, take it in, and then run that through a research model to say in the problem statement what are the possible solutions I can have, and give it constraints. Like it cannot be a full blown SaaS. Pick a niche. So you can just brainstorm it a little bit. அதில் வர அவுட்புட் எடுத்து யூ கேன் யூஸ் லெட்ஸ் சே லைக் திஸ் வாட் ஐ வுட் டு. ஐ வுட் கிரியேட் அ PRD ஃப்ரம் தட், டேக் தட் டு கர்சர் ஆர் விண்ட்சர்ஃப்.
So what does cursor or windsurf do?
I am glad that you're asking these questions. So cursor or windsurf is a coding IDE. It's like it's a fork of Visual Studio Code. So if you are comfortable with Visual Studio Code. So
just a small interjection here. When I first learned on my first job, my boss told me that all developers will be given a notepad.
Okay.
You need to write code on that.
Okay.
I'm not going to allow you to use any help from the IDE.
Okay.
Write it on the notepad, send that file to the QA. They will run the code.
Oh, damn. Okay.
And your code should be good enough to generate an error code as an output.
Oh, okay.
And the only feedback you will get is the error code with which you need to, modify your code.
Okay.
We've come a long way from there.
Absolutely. IDE actually வந்து உங்களுக்கு syntax எல்லாம் அதுவே காமிச்சிரும்.
ஆமா.
like AI coding tools like Cursor or Windsurf is one step above that. So நான் அதை எடுத்து போட்டேன் அப்படின்னா I can just then start building just by chatting with it. So I'll go tell, here is my plan. இதுதான் நான் build பண்ணோம். Sometimes I also give it a tech stack, like preferred tech stack. I give Next.js because that's what I'm comfortable with. I say, build this in this tech stack. இதுதான் அந்த API sample coding கொடுத்துருவேன். ஏதாவது external API யூஸ் பண்ணோம் அப்படின்னா அது எல்லாத்தையும் கொடுத்துட்டு I'll just say reference this document, build me a version. I'll also build a implementation plan. அது ஒரு தனி ஃபைல். implementation plan என்ன இருக்கும்னா அந்த ஒரு MVP to finished product ஒரு iterationலயும் it will add one feature so that I can test it. அதையுமே வந்து அது கொடுத்து அது எல்லாமே I use ChatGPT to generate. So I'll give all that and say implementation plan இது tech stack இது, now go build அப்படின்னா it will start building. The thing with AI coding when you use Windsurf or Cursor is that it will make you run around in circles. You never know when it will come up with an error. நம்ம ஒன்று சொன்னா அது ஒன்று பண்ணும். You have to be extremely patient.
I think that's where my trust level is very low because I'm a control freak when it comes to the output.
So it will make you run around in circles. Yeah. Like there are times where I've abandoned something and then built it from scratch because it's easier. But எனக்கு பிரச்சனை இல்லை because otherwise I can't do it. So எனக்கு வந்து இது இல்லைனா ஒரு ஆப்ஷனே இல்லை. So I will just keep iterating and then I will obviously you will face bugs. So the debugging will take time. நீங்க சொல்ற அந்த 90% to 10% அந்த பிரச்சனை வரும். But you have to persist through that. So usually my mornings are for that. காலையில் நான் எழுந்தேன்னா I'll pick something, try to build, play around with it. அது பண்ணதுக்கு அப்புறமா I have something and typically I will try to keep the website and the product in the same domain. I won't build a separate landing page. அதுலயே எல்லாமே இருக்கும். So landing pageல காப்பி எழுதுறதுக்குலாம் you can easily go to ChatGPT. You can do that. You just take a screenshot, you give it to Cursor, it will build the same layout for you. Fantastic. And then you go edit the copy. So you have something ready. Payments-க்கு I use Dodo Payments. Dodo Payments is easier to integrate now in India. Stripe இல்லன்றதுனால. So once you have Dodo Payments integrated,
so when you integrate Dodo Payments, you can receive international payments as well as
Indian
local.
UPI எல்லாமே வந்துரும் அதுல.
Okay.
So UPI is a big reason why I wanted Dodo Payments.
So it's a one-stop solution for
all
receiving payments. But the fees will be different for
merchant of record. So the users don't pay you. They pay Dodo Payments.
Okay.
Dodo Payments, based on where they got the payment from, they will deduct the tax, they will do all that and they will pay you the difference. Okay. So you pay a slightly higher transaction fee, 5% or 4%. Stripe no 2.3%. But obviously it's like hassle free and இன்னொன்னு நம்ம ஊர்ல வேற ஆப்ஷன் இல்ல. அது ஒண்ணு தான் இருக்கு.
Is that an opportunity to build the next?
Yes, but it is extremely hard. I mean, at least for me, I am not an expert in the fintech space, but yeah, it is definitely an opportunity. Okay. That's your area of expertise. Payment providers is not easy. And எனக்கு இன்னொன்னு என்னன்னா I also want to build for the Indian market. I somehow feel like எல்லாருமே வந்து சாஃப்ட்வேர்னா you have to straight sell to the US. அங்க தான் காசு இருக்கு அப்படினு. But my belief is that here it's changing slightly. Like, you know, we can, if there is quality product coming from here, we can exclusively sell to the Indian market. So that's also why I want to have an Indian friendly payment provider. So அவ்வளவுதான், அது ஒரு லெவலுக்கு வந்துருச்சுன்னா நமக்கு ஒரு செட்டப் ரெடி. Now content creation there are specialized tools, but I am now leaning towards more custom built workflow solution. For example, outrank.so or IO ஒரு tool இருக்கு. If you just connect your website, if you connect your Google search console, it will go do the keyword research for you. It will create a content calendar for you. All you have to do is approve the content. So அதுவே போயிட்டு content create பண்ணிட்டு கூகுளில் வேற யாரெல்லாம் அந்த ஆர்டிகல் எழுதியிருக்கான்றதை பார்த்துட்டு எடுத்துட்டு வந்து கவர் இமேஜ் கிரியேட் பண்ணி அவுட்லைன் கிரியேட் பண்ணி இட் கிரியேட் an article for you. Outrank. So it's you can just go try it out, or you can build your own workflow. For example, where I say I will feed my, இப்போ எனக்கு ஒரு thesis இருக்கும்ல, இப்போ சூப்பர் மீம்க்கு ஐ ஹாவ் ஸ்ட்ராங் ஒப்பீனியன்ஸ் ஆன் மீம் ஜென்ரேஷன். ஒரு மீமோட எசன்ஸ் எப்படி இருக்கணும், ஒரு மீமோட லைக் யூ நோ ஒரு அவுட்லைன் எப்படி இருக்கணும்.
One thing, can AI create memes the way you do? No. That's one topic that I wanted to touch upon. I have had so many ROFL moments watching your Tamil movie memes with software development process, right? It was extremely, I don't think AI can ever do something like that.
Thank you, but that's true. And like the same way where AI cannot replace a really good well written essay, AI cannot replace a well written book, it can do a good enough job. In most cases that is enough. So and plus இன்னொன்று என்னன்னா, ஒரு blank stateல ஸ்டார்ட் பண்றதுக்கும் ஒரு rough draftல ஸ்டார்ட் பண்றது டிஃபரன்ஸ் இருக்கு. For example, where super meme helps me, I still write the final copy, but it's so much faster for me to find a template now முன்னாடியை விட. ஏன்னா I go search exactly what I have in mind, போட்டா template வந்துரும். So that's where it helps. It solves ஓரளவுக்கு பாதி ப்ராப்ளம். So same in the articles, right? I have a draft I can review instead of starting from a blank page where I don't even know what to write. So either I will use a tool like that, or I will build a custom workflow in N8N where I'll say, okay, or a list of topics கொடுத்துட்டு go find out what others are writing in on Google, bring that, find the gap in that, take my thesis. நான் அது மொத்தமாக ஒரு பிரெயின் டம்ப் மாதிரி அதை வந்து ஒரு டெக்ஸ்ட்லேயோ இல்லைனா ஆக்சுவலி யூ கேன் யூஸ் டூல்ஸ் லைக் விஸ்பர் ஃப்ளோ வேர் யூ கேன் ஜஸ்ட் ஸ்பீக் டு இட், த வாய்ஸ் டு டெக்ஸ்ட் இஸ் அக்யூரேட். ஸோ யூ ஹேவ் லைக் அ டம்ப். அதை வந்து இன்புட்டாக கொடுத்துட்டு இது என்னோட தாட்டு, இது வந்து கூகுளில் இருக்க ஆர்டிக்கல், இது கேப்பு, ரைட் அன் ஆர்டிக்கல் ஃபார் திஸ் அப்படின்னா like you know any model can do it, and you play around with different models, see what you like. I prefer 4.1 or Gemini for human like writing. The language is slightly better, and then once you have that version you can also pass it through another model to say review this, look at all the gaps, and then like you know fill that gap. So you can play around with it based on however you want, and then you can almost have your blog running on autopilot. like adha vandu or let's say if you use WordPress, there are plugins where you can just auto publish on the blog. There are so many blog platforms that do this, so content is taken care of. The other place where AI can help is
ads.
Yeah, ads is another place, but எனக்கு அதில் பெருசாக எக்ஸ்பீரியன்ஸ் இல்லை. பட் we are like இப்போ சூப்பர் ஸ்டிச் ஃப்ளோவில் we are using ads. So இங்கே what we want to do is image generation, like creative generation was a big problem because image generation were not good with text on images. Now it's solved with like the what is that model, image gen model from OpenAI. Okay, so ads வந்து இப்போ before the latest OpenAI image gen model was a challenge. அந்த டெக்ஸ்ட் வந்து கரெக்டாக வராது இமேஜஸில். ஸோ இப்போ என்ன பண்ணலாம்னா you can go to any high performing ad. அது வந்து you can find it from Reddit ads library. Every platform has an ads library. LinkedIn இருக்கு, Facebook இருக்கு. அங்கேருந்து நல்லா பர்ஃபார்ம் பண்ணுற ஆட் உங்களுக்கு பிடிச்ச ஆட் எடுத்துட்டு உங்கள் கம்பெனி கான்டெக்ட் கொடுத்துட்டு you can say like generate an ad in this format for my product அப்படின்னா it will give you options, and then you can pick what you like. Or sometimes what you can do is you can use that as an inspiration. If you have a designer who can help, you can say இந்த மாதிரி எனக்கு பண்ணி கொடு அப்படின்ட்டு. So that's what I'm not designer. Design is my weakest link, so I will just take whatever comes from ChatGPT, post it on this thing. Ads அது பண்ணலாம். The untapped opportunity that I feel is cold outbound. So cold outbound is people, especially people who have not had experience with it, அவங்களுக்கு வந்து அது ஒரு ஸ்பாமியாக தெரியும். இல்லை அது வந்து நான் பண்ண மாட்டேன், அது வந்து எத்திக்கல் அந்த மாதிரிலாம் சொல்லுவாங்க. பட் கோல்ட் அவுட்பவுண்டில் என்ன ட்ரிக்னா, at any given point, let's say if I reach out to you with something that you need, it's not cold outbound. It's actually like, oh my god, thank god someone reached out, I actually wanted this. அது எப்படி கண்டுபிடிக்கிறதுனா, இப்போ நம்ம வந்து ஒரு ப்ராடக்ட் பில்ட் பண்ணுறோம். ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் சூப்பர் மீம்க்கு I know that social media managers will find it valuable. I have done no marketing in trying to reach them. But now what I want to do is I want to go to Apollo. Apollo is a lead building tool. அது என்னன்னா, நீங்கள் போயிட்டு இந்த லொக்கேஷனில் சோஷியல் மீடியா மேனேஜர்ஸ்னு ஃபில்டர் போட்டால் அங்கே இருக்கிற ஒரு 100 பேரோ 200 பேரோ லிஸ்ட் வரும். And you will get their emails. You can export that and then you now have their information. So what you can do is, again going back to N8N அங்கே போயிட்டு ஒரு யூசருக்கும் அவங்க LinkedIn ப்ரொஃபைலை போய் என்ரிச் பண்ணிவிட்டு அவங்க LinkedIn ப்ரொஃபைலில் இருக்கிற போஸ்ட், அவங்க LinkedIn ப்ரொஃபைலில் இருக்கிற லைக் த ஜாப் இன்ஃபர்மேஷன் அதெல்லாம் எடுத்துகிட்டு,
ஸோ இது வந்து ஒரு ஹியூமன் பீயிங் பண்ணுற வேலையை யூ ஆர் சேயிங் N8N you will have a workflow saying first do this, then ஒருத்தனுக்கு ஒரு கிழிப்புள்ள மாதிரி சொல்லி கொடுக்குற அது வந்து இதை வந்து ஒரு you make it into a workflow and do it.
So first time நீங்கள் பண்ணுறப்போ ட்ரையல் அண்ட் எரர் பண்ணிவிட்டு அது வந்து ப்ராப்பராக ஒர்க் ஆகிடுச்சு அப்படின்னா இன்ஃபினிட் ஸ்கேல். ஒருத்தருக்கு நான் பண்ணி கண்டுபிடிச்சிட்டேன் அப்படின்னா இன்ஃபினிட் ஸ்கேல். The reason I love N8N is that the blocks that you use are so easy. For example, இப்போ வந்து ஒரு டேட்டா ஒரு ஃபார்மேட்டில் வருது, அந்த ஃபார்மேட்டை எனக்கு அந்த ஏபிஐ அக்செப்ட் பண்ணாது. ஸோ இன் பிட்வீன் ஐ கேன் ஹேவ் அ கோட் பிளாக் டு சே இந்த ஃபார்மேட்டில் இருக்க டேட்டாவை இப்படி மாற்று அப்படின்ட்டு.
ஸோ இஸ் இட் ரைட் டு சே தட் யூ ஹாவ் infinite employees at your disposal at at any moment you want?
Yes, the only thing is you need to be extremely clear on what you want to do. And the workflow தெளிவாக இருக்கணும். It can't, but again அதுலேயுமே what you can do is you can have an AI agent that has tools it can connect to. So the agent can decide எந்த tool choose பண்ணலான்ட்டு. But I would say it's still foolproof if you have the workflow clear in your mind. இப்போ எனக்கு எக்ஸாக்டாக எதாவது பண்ணணுன்ட்டு. So let's say in this case I will say social media manager-ஓட கம்பெனி ப்ரொஃபைல் போயிட்டு ஒரு போஸ்ட் எடுத்து அந்த போஸ்ட்டுக்கு ஒரு மீம் கிரியேட் பண்ணால் எப்படி இருக்கும். I can use Super Meme API to create a meme for that, use that in my cold outbound, send them an email. Now this is not now generic mass email. I am reaching out to someone saying, hey, this is a meme that you could have used in your social media post that would have gotten you better engagement. இதை நான் வந்து அட் ஸ்கேல் பண்ணிட்டே இருக்கலாம் நான். பட் ஐ கேன் ஜஸ்ட் சென்ட் 30 like the only.
But how do you say that this meme could have gotten you this much? Like how do you quantify
that is a trick. See, இப்போ வந்து like let's say I'm personally reaching out to 10 people na, one person, like that's the general response rate with cold emails. It's very low, but I have to keep doing it at volume.
No, I'm saying like how do you say in that personalized
like
post?
Okay, அதுல வந்து இப்போ நான் உங்க சோஷியல் மீடியா போஸ்ட் எடுத்துப்பேன். சோஷியல் மீடியா போஸ்ட் எடுத்துட்டு சூப்பர் மீம் கேன் டர்ன் டெக்ஸ்ட் into memes. If the post is big, I will extract the essence from that using any, let's say, OpenAI model.
No, I'm not saying how you generate.
Okay.
How do you tell them that your post could have gotten so much engagement if you had used this?
That is extrapolation. Okay. அது வந்து again that's what I have to do to sell my product.
Right.
So that's an assumption where you say, hey, generally a meme performs better, like a humor post perform better.
But by how much? That's the question.
See, let's say if I have sold the vision to you, if you have bought it, you won't care. If you have not, if you're going to need data, then I can't sell to you. So anyways, like, that's not a person that I can sell. The people that I'm going after, again, super meme, any product, if they don't resonate with it, you cannot sell them on that. They have to feel that this product will help me.
So it's like you running in parallel with them before you can hand over the baton.
So இப்போ வந்து நான் அவங்களுக்கு அந்த ப்ராப்ளமே இல்லை, அவங்களுக்கு வந்து இந்த நெசசிட்டியே இல்லைன்னா எனக்கு என்ன பண்ணாலும் என்னால் விற்க முடியாது. So we are not that sell me your pen types. That cannot happen. All we are trying to do with marketing is that you increase the surface area enough that people with the problem find us. அதுதான் நம்ம வேலை. ஸோ நம்ம ஒருத்தரை போய் கன்வின்ஸ் பண்ணி விற்கிறது நம்ம வேலை கிடையாது. அந்த ப்ராப்ளம் இருக்கிறவங்க முன்னாடி என்கிட்ட இது இருக்குது, இது உன்னோட ப்ராப்ளம் சால்வ் பண்ணணும்னு சொல்கிறது தான். ஸோ தட்ஸ் ஹவ் ஐ லுக் அட் and AI can help you increase that surface area to next level.
Wow.
So yeah, I will do cold outbound, I will do ads. Ads-ume வந்து you can go to a level where you can run personalized ads for people on LinkedIn. Like if let's say if you are running a high ticket sale, $20,000 $30,000 ARR இருக்க ப்ராடக்ட்னா அந்த ஒரு பர்சனுக்கு மட்டுமே ஒரு ஆட் ரன் பண்ணலாம். அண்ட் அது கிரியேட் பண்ணுறதுக்குமே வந்து AI can help. So yeah, I think this system if I have in place நாலே போதும். இதுவே வந்து if it's always on, it will do what I wanted to do. Like even in your case, right, you are now dependent on marketplace உள்ள வந்து தேடி கண்டுபிடிச்சா அந்த ஆப் யூஸ் பண்ணுவாங்க. But let's say if you're able to find people who have that use case and you are able to scrape a list of Freshworks user who have a certain job title in their role, you can email them saying, hey, I know that in the role you have to schedule recurring tickets for this use case. Do you know that this app exists? That's an email that you can constantly send them.
Right.
So these are all always on things that we can try.
Awesome.
So yeah, this is my fantasy AI marketing engine. இன்னும் நான் செட் பண்ணல because obviously இது எல்லாமே வந்து ட்ரையல் அண்ட் எரர் இருக்கு, நிறைய technical dependencies இருக்கு, but it's possible. So that's I am actually more excited about AI marketing than AI coding. Like in the last 2-3 months because Stitch Flow we've been trying a lot and a lot of this is working, but it's still early stages. Like நிறைய experiment பண்ணோம். Super. Anything else that you had in mind that you want to talk about?
Yeah, one thing is that if you were, like you asked me, if you were to build something from scratch now, how would you build it? Or what would you build?
I think ideas ku nariya irukku. Every day I get ideas and I have a...
Is it like your Reddit post that you follow or...
I think for me, it is mostly just the brain is wired like that. Whenever you look at a situation, I'm almost thinking, how can I productize that? For example, one of the products that I want to build is an AI podcaster, which is basically you can talk to an AI that will interview you and then you can answer questions. இது எனக்கு எப்படி வந்துச்சு அப்படின்னா, நான் என்னோட I've been on like few podcasts and என்கிட்ட கேள்வி கேட்குறப்ப தான் எனக்கு வந்து ஓகே இதெல்லாம் நம்ம யோசிக்கல அப்படின்றது தோணுது. அந்த ஆன் த ஸ்பாட் ஐ திங்க் அண்ட் ஐ ஆன்சர். ஸோ ஐ ரியலைஸ் ஓகே இந்த மாதிரி நிறைய பேர்கிட்ட ஸ்டோரிஸ் இருக்குது, பட் தென் நோ ஒன் இஸ் like asking them. So I wanted to build something where people can just get on a podcast and then ask like AI will ask you a question. So this is stemming from okay, ஒரு ப்ராப்ளம் இருக்குன்னா there is a software solution to that. அது ஒரு மசில் மாதிரி, like it's always on. So whatever that you see, for example, I want to build an AI thumbnail generator because I don't like editing. ஒரு thumbnail create பண்றதுக்கு it takes some time, so I want to build something like that. I recently wanted to build like a friend map tool mari where I want to map my first circle, second circle, third circle, and I want to get reminded on when I should be reaching out to all of them. Personal problem. So it's always wired in a way that okay, what is a software led way to solve this problem அப்படின்ற மாதிரி. So that's where I get most of my product ideas from.
Okay. which is why when you reached out to me and you added someone in the group chat, I thought it's an AI agent. I think we should talk about that.
Yeah, that's
and the fact that you're actually thinking of this rings of acquaintances, friends, family, and then how do you reach out to them on a periodic basis?
Yeah, I'm sure that people will find it like, oh, so insensitive. It's not like that. எனக்கு வந்து ஐ எம் ஆல்மோஸ்ட் லுக்கிங் அட் சாஃப்ட்வேர் அஸ் அன் எனேபிளர். எனக்கு எங்கெல்லாம் பிரச்சனை இருக்கோ ஒரு சாஃப்ட்வேர் வந்து எனக்கு ஹெல்ப் பண்ணலாம் அப்படின்ற இட்ஸ் பியூர்லி அ டூல்.
Okay, so where is it that you will not want? Are there specific places where you don't want software to impact your life? Are there places like that?
Actually, no. I'm thinking, why wouldn't I, right? Like if software can help me.
I can give you an
Yeah.
example. So I learned music purely for the love of playing that instrument and the peace it gives me.
Okay, yeah.
Right? I would never want my ability to be traded for a software which can do that.
Okay.
I want that tactile feedback I get when I play an instrument,
Makes sense.
and I want my body to reverberate with the sound of the drums when I play drum. I would never want AI to replace that.
Wow. I think as I think through this, I realize that I am so intertwined with AI because building those systems is what gives me the joy. Like, இப்போ நீங்க சொல்றது வந்து எனக்கு relatable example is when I crack an automation, when I build something that works, when I especially when I crack an automation, right, where okay, the manual பண்றது வந்து 15 நிமிஷம் ஆகுது, but I've built something that can do it in 10 seconds is what gives me the joy. So maybe for me personally, this is the art. This is the joy for me. So அதனால I don't think that I will let anything get in the way.
But what if AI can actually replace that?
The building part.
Yeah. When it can replace so many things.
It can. But maybe that will be the part where I will not let that get in the way because the building is...
So there is something that you will not want AI to replace.
Which is the actual building part.
Yes.
It is so meta. Super. I think that is a good note to kind of, bring this to an end because it's been an amazing conversation. And I want to highlight something, right? ஏன்னா இந்த opportunity வந்து நம்ம நிறைய பேசணும், but I want to almost give it like a summary where if you are a technical person, if let's say you say that I am a developer, but I don't want to build an end-to-end SaaS or I don't want to go and market myself அப்படின்னா, you should definitely consider this marketplace approach. Marketplace-னா ஒண்ணுமே இல்லை. இப்போ வந்து ஒரு established software இருக்கு. Like you take Freshworks, you take Zoho, Monday.com, Zoho சொல்லிட்டேன். Asana, Atlassian, ServiceNow, Salesforce, all these are established software companies. அவங்க என்ன பண்ணுவாங்க அப்படின்னா, they will let you build on top of that ஒரு add-on மாதிரி. அந்த add-onக்கு people will be willing to pay money. So you can go build that add-on and then say இந்த app வந்து இந்த ஒரு use case solve பண்ணுது அப்படின்னு you can go build, publish on their marketplace. The advantage of that is you don't have to go sell to their users. ஒரு அந்த user search பண்றப்போ your app will show up and if they find it useful they're going to pay. So as a developer, it's a path that you should definitely consider. And Arun is an example of someone who's like, building a lifestyle out of that. And I know so many companies are just companies that build apps. That's all they do. So there is an opportunity to make money. And like I was telling Arun, in the channel, I want to enable people to go build software and make a lifestyle out of that. And this is a path that even I didn't consider actually. எனக்கு வந்து அருண்ட பேசுறதுக்கு முன்னாடி இது ஒரு பாத் இருக்குன்னே தெரியாது. So I'm super glad that I got Arun and thank you so much Arun. இங்க வந்து இந்த ஒரு opportunity பத்தி பேசி and obviously we also spoke about AI marketing and I'm glad that we had this chat. So thank you so much and thank you so much for watching if you've stuck on till the end and as always இப்போதைக்கு பெருசா என்கிட்ட விக்கிறதுக்கு எதுவும் இல்லை. Hopefully at some point there'll be something.